The telecast with me are two Indian Canadians who unfortunately lost their family members in the tragic 1985 Air India bombing. First up, we're going to speak with Mr. Bal Gupta, who's the chair of Air India Victims Families Association. He's joining us from Canada. Mr. Gupta lost his wife, Ramvati, when she was murdered along with 328 other innocent people by terrorists on board Air India Flight 182 as it crashed into the Atlantic Ocean off the coast of Ireland on the 23rd of June 1985. Mr. Gupta, appreciate you speaking with us. Thank you so much for taking out the time and talking to NewsX. I hope you can hear me, sir.
Thank you.
So, what are your memories of that fateful day? Can you take us through what you heard and when you heard and what happened after that?
Well, we were planning to go, the whole family, me, my wife, and two boys, to visit our family after 4 years. And she was going alone on that flight, and we were supposed to join her 2 weeks later on a subsequent flight. Now, I left them on 22nd at the airport, came home, and early morning I was awakened by a phone call from a friend. And he said, "Did your wife go yesterday, last night?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Turn the radio on and listen to the news. Something has happened." As I turned the radio, the news was that Air India Flight 182 has disappeared off the radar and they expect no survivors. So early at about 5:30 or 5:45 Canadian time, I came to know that the tragedy had happened.
So what were the first thoughts that came to your mind when you heard this? Obviously, it was later discovered that it was no technical failure, but a terrorist attack.
Well, at that time, the first thought was maybe it's the wrong information and maybe it's some other flight. But when it was confirmed, then as a layman, I didn't know what to say or what to know. I just prayed that she may be alive. But this terrorist attack and all that came later on.
So it's been almost 4 decades since this terrible tragedy took place. But for people like yourself, who've been looking for closure, who've been looking for, the people who are accountable for this tragedy, there is still no respite.
Well, that is true. Families feel that the justice has not been carried out to full extent. Only one person was imprisoned, Mr. Rayat, and he's out now after completing his sentence according to the Canadian laws, and nobody else has been held accountable. So we still feel that the justice has not been done.
So you continue to live in Canada, and Canada has had security issues when it comes to taking care of witnesses, taking care of people who are ready to testify against those who were responsible. Do you think that the investigation there and after this terrible crash was not done as professionally as would the families of the victims would want them to?
I think it would be fair to say that at that time, Canadian administration was not really used to this type of attacks or this type of incidents. I think they learned on the way. I'm not defending them. There were definitely mistakes made in the investigation. They were keeping these couple of guys under surveillance for a long time. And just before the incident, the surveillance was taken off. Then, during the investigation process, certain very important files were erased. There was lack of communication or competition, whatever you call it, between CSIS, which is the intelligence branch of Canadian government, and RCMP, which is the investigative branch, looking at the time in this case. And that was the biggest mistake in my mind in the investigation.
So do you find it strange that the biggest terrorist attack on Canadian soil continues to be unsolved for so long?
Well, that's the law of the land. We may like it or we may not like it. The main thing is that two other guys were brought to court as accused. They were not innocent. They were not declared innocent. That is not done under the law, but they were let go for lack of sufficient evidence. The investigative branch and the prosecutive branch of government could not prove the case without doubt. But as families, definitely we feel cheated.
So the people who are responsible for this, their associates, the lineage that belongs to these terrorists still continues to live in Canada. They still continue to be protected by the current Liberal government and their Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau. What do you have to say to that?
Well, the law is the same. You can't take somebody's crime on the children, and whosoever is proved not guilty is not guilty in law. The worst thing is that we fear, particularly under the current circumstances, that something like this may not happen again. And as families of the victims, we pray and hope that nothing like that will happen again.
So you're in touch with the other families as well who have lost loved ones in this terrible crash. What do you make of their sentiment towards this unsolved mystery?
Well, as I said, the government of the day and the whole setup was not functioned properly at that time, at least. And that, number one, led to this incident. Also, there were some warnings earlier which were ignored. And the families know it. I and most of us I and other families keep in touch even today. Most of them, not all of them, mind it, in 38 years, many people who lost the family members have gone. But still, people say that wounds heal with time, but that is not the case. Those who have lived with the tragedy, their wounds will go with them. Those wounds will be never healed. Maybe a scar has formed, but when anything happens, then those wounds get green.
So, last question before we let you go. The families of the victims, are they still hopeful that those who are responsible will be brought to books and the Canadian government will perhaps, follow the paper trail, follow the clues and deliver justice one day?
Well, officially, whenever we meet RCMP or communicate with them, they say investigation is still not closed. Now, under the law, the murder files are never closed. But I think it would be foolhardy to think that after 38 years, anybody else will be brought to court to face the law. But some people may keep on hoping against the hope that some miracle might happen. But it is, I think, almost impossible to get that done.
Mr. Bal Gupta, appreciate you joining us, sir. Thank you so much.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.